Can you take us a little bit inside the coach's room into what goes into the decisions to make line combinations?
There's so many things that go in. And one of the first things you want to start off with, and Craig's alluded to this a few times, is you traditionally start with pairs. You don't start with a 3-man unit right away. You go with 2 guys that fit together well on the ice, but they also have to fit together for special teams. You do a lot of pairing with special team combinations, because if you have player A and B that are on every penalty kill, the first penalty kill over the boards, you can't have one on the first line, one on the third line, because you're going to screw your lines up when that penalty's over. Yeah. Now it's hard to get back into rhythm. Same with the power play. When you look at the top line, traditionally, those are guys that play on the power play together, because when you get through the power play, now you can just keep rolling your lines. You don't want to disrupt the lines much. You also want to look for things like size, and you want to protect players of smaller stature. Like this year, it's going to be a player like Dylan Guenther. Can we put him with some size to protect him a little bit? A guy that's a younger, a little smaller, not
Slighter,
so big, not so big in the corners. Can we get him with a bigger player? You want to keep guys in the same pace. You know, you don't want to have 2 guys that fly up the ice and a guy that's going to be stuck in the mud 2 zones behind them. So you got to look at who can play with pace. There are so many different things. And here's the problem at this time of year in July, because I've been through this exercise with coaching staff, and this is when you start to do exactly what we're doing now. This is when they will start to do their summer meetings, usually from the draft on, where you start to go, okay, here's guys we want to put together. And traditionally for camp, you're going to put a guy like, let's say, Schmaltz and Keller. Yeah. We're going to put Schmaltz and Keller together. Now, for training camp, you're not going to put them with who the center is that you think. That might be a spot where you put Geekie in. That you put Connor Geekie in for training camp. Let's just see how he is with this pace. Again, you're not thinking for October. You're thinking for right now. Let's see what he can do at this pace with this skill. So this exercise for coaches in July, there are combinations that you will look at that go, this has to work. Shane Doan with this guy and this guy. Oh, it's going to work for sure. What a great line. 2 days of practice and you go, these guys can't play together. Like there's so many times that
Hammer
you
and
go,
OEL.
They for sure
they're going to play together.
You're going to play together. Yeah. They go into the summer skates at the ice and, we're going to be aligned together. For sure, we're going to play together. And by the time you get there in September, you go, this just absolutely doesn't work. And Craig and I went through this exercise before Kerfoot got signed. Yeah. And we had it all figured out. And then you had Kerfoot and you go, shit, we got to start over, because he doesn't just take a 4th line slot.
A couple of follow-up questions to you. When you're constructing your lines and you're trying to find guys that mesh, you talked about playing styles and size, complementing, protecting. How much do you think about, okay, if we do all this with this line, it's going to impact the other lines? Does that come into play as well?
Oh, absolutely. And here's the problem. And this sounds like this is what happened to you and I. This literally happens in the NHL coaches room. Is you get they have a board exactly like this. Like it's magnets with these names. It's exactly like this. And they go, you forget somebody. And
Did you guys forget Lawson Krause on Friday when you were like talking through this?
But we've gone through this exercise and you get it where you go, okay, I really like this. And you go, shit, where's Phil Kessel? And you forget a guy and you go, oh shit, we got to start over.
Yeah.
And you think you have it just how you want it. And just putting one player in screws up the whole thing, because you can't just take one guy out because he doesn't fit on that line. So now you have to juggle everything over again. It's a much harder exercise than you think. And once the season gets on, you'll find those combinations that play well together and you can keep rolling them out. But then you got to get a call up on an injury. And while he'll just go on the 4th line, well, doesn't fit on the 4th line. It's not a 4th line player. So now you got to jumble everything up again. So it's constantly, it's a daily battle to get the best 20 players on a roster every single day.
Do personalities matter?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And who can play with who? This guy, you say, and it's funny because I'll take you behind the curtain. Taylor Hall, Phil Kessel are on the same team. The analytics showed, analytics department met with the coaching staff on a morning and said that the analytics showed that Rick Tocchet should play Taylor Hall and Phil Kessel on the same line, that their whatever rating and number showed that those two should play together. And Rick Tocchet looked at the stats and analytics guy and said, you're out of your mind. There's only one puck. I can't put both of those guys on the ice at the same time. And he said, he said, "Would you please leave?" And that the young gentleman
I'm
had
sure
to
he said it
leave the-
exactly that way.
Yeah, he kind of said it like that. But again, it's personalities, and you have to be able to. I mean, honestly, you don't have to get along. You don't have to like your line mate, but you have to have that communication that when you jump over the boards, it fits. And I think that this exercise today, we're going to try to get some of those things that this line fits. And we're going to try to think of a lot of different things and a lot of different reasons to make it so.
One more follow-up question, as long as we're peeling back the curtain. You mentioned analytics. How much do they actually come into play versus what's perceived on the outside?
The perception?
Yeah.
The perception is coaches scour through the numbers and that helps make their decision. They make their decisions first and see if the numbers fit. I think for coaches, they look at the numbers. You have to. It's 2023. You have to take the numbers into account, but it is not the driving force behind what coaches do to make decisions. They're much more into eye tests or their own numbers or their own stats versus what the analytics show. Very few of the decisions here will make decisions based on analytics. The one exception is defensive pairs that will say, okay, this defensive pair together is out against the other team's top players and they give up this kind of a plus minus on chances. And then the coach goes, okay, I didn't see it that way. Maybe they can't take that much ice time against the top players. I think you will see it influence there more than any other place, but I don't think they go looking at deep into numbers and go, this guy should play with that guy. I know that it's more analytic driven than it's ever been.
Yeah.
But it is still just a piece of this giant puzzle. And you watch the numbers get so deep in the woods. This game isn't baseball. It's too chaotic. There's too many changes. Numbers don't fit like they do in baseball.
Yeah.
This batter against a right-handed pitcher in this inning is going to hit this many times. And it's pretty true to form. Hockey's not like that.
No, too many variables.
Yep.